Welcome back. The Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Michael Gilday, says the Navy can sustain about 300 ships with the budget it has now. One rule to prevent him from getting more money is bunk. According to Seamus Daniels, Associate Director and Associate Fellow for Defense Budget Analysis at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, he's writing about budgeting in Defense One. Seamus, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. I like how you get right to the point here. The rule of thirds isn't a rule and never has been. What did you base that statement on, Seamus?
Francis, thanks for having me. Essentially, if you look back at the defense budget data, going back to the end of World War II, you'll see that the services have never had an equal share of the budget. And that's down to a couple of reasons. One, essentially, there is defense-wide funding in the budget for the Fourth Estate that has been growing significantly. So naturally, you can't have thirds. But when it comes down to it, the defense budget isn't divided equally into thirds among the services because that doesn't make sense strategically. As DoD and the country's defense priorities change, realistically, you have to reallocate the budget to the services that are best equipped to carry out that strategy.
You write in this piece, debate on the merits of each service's assets and programs and operationalizing the defense strategy is healthy as long as parochial interests don't distract from the joint effort to achieve the country's defense interests. It sounds to me like you're saying that because you're not seeing that playing out that way as you're watching the defense budget process from the outside looking in. Am I reading between the lines too much, Seamus?
I think we really have to, with a flat budget or a slightly falling budget top line for DoD when adjusted for inflation, naturally, there are going to have to be significant trade-offs made to operationalize and realize the strategy. So it makes sense that you have the services going out to make their pitch about why they're best equipped to receive budget for their programs, for their capabilities. We have seen some reports of certain services considering other services' capabilities and programs unnecessary or duplicative. So I think it makes sense that people need to realize that, naturally, as we try to operationalize the new defense strategy, and the Biden team is creating their own defense strategy, there will be changes among the services and their budget share. And we may see changes among who receives the most, the greatest share of the defense budget.
How will you measure the way those changes happen? Is it too early to think about it in the 2022 budget request, given that the Biden team's only been in office since January? Or is 2022 kind of a holding pattern? We'll see a national defense strategy theoretically within the next year, and then we'll see the 2023 budget request a year from now and really see meat on the bones of what the Biden administration intends strategy and budget-wise.
You've got that exactly right, Francis. The FY22 budget will provide signposts as to the direction that the Biden administration is heading for their defense strategy. So it'll give us some indication of where they will change from the previous administration. But really, realistically, we won't see a fully informed budget, fully informed by the Biden team's strategy until further along down the road. That being said, there are some important things that we can look at in FY22. The shipbuilding plan, for example, to see how that actually departs from the Trump administration's plan that they released in December. That'll be a significant area, and whether also the Biden team makes changes to Army end strength and the F-35 program. Those are a few areas that I'm going to be watching out for.
We have a couple of minutes left, Seamus. I mentioned at the beginning of the program, the National Defense Authorization Act markup on the House side won't happen now till after Labor Day. Any implications for the delay in the NDAA markups to the budget process, or do you expect the appropriations committees to continue apace, hold hearings, and start to consider what they're willing to do money-wise, budget-wise?
Ultimately, with the budget coming out next week, it will be the latest submission of the budget request since the budget process began and required a request beginning in the 1920s. So that being said, markup for the appropriations bills is going to be delayed. But we have to keep in mind that Congress has a full plate on their hands with an infrastructure package, as well as nominations for key administration posts. So I don't think we should be surprised at all to see DOD start under a continuing resolution this fall.
About 30 seconds left. I want to go back to your piece in the time that we have left. Is there a way to change thinking across the defense and national security space in Washington to move people away from the idea of the rule of thirds, other than just talking about it the way that you are, Seamus?
I think ultimately, with the new challenges that are facing the defense enterprise in the U.S., it may be time for a new roles and missions reviews for the military services and departments. And I think this just makes sense with gray zone challenges that the country is facing, with different technology challenges that we're facing. And so it may be time to redivide the roles and missions among the services to eliminate duplication, to eliminate redundancy, and to make sure that we have the most efficient defense enterprise possible.
Seamus Daniels, thanks very much as always. Terrific to have you on the show again.
Thanks for having me.